I had been working late-night deliveries for Milo's Deli for a while, and most nights were uneventful. Just me, my music, and the occasional oddball customer. But this night was different. It was around 11:30 p.m., and the streets were eerily empty. I was on my way to drop off an order when I pulled up to a red light at a deserted intersection. Nothing unusual, until the light stayed red for far longer than it should have. As I tapped my fingers on the wheel, waiting, a car pulled up beside me. A black sedan. At a glance, it looked normal, but when I turned my head slightly, I noticed the windows were tinted so dark that I couldn't see inside at all. Definitely illegal levels of tint. The unease crept in almost immediately. Something about the car, or maybe the situation itself, sent a shiver down my spine. I faced forward, willing the light to turn green. When it finally did, I pulled off. But the black sedan didn't move. It just sat there, lingering in the intersection. Trying to shake off the unease, I focused on the delivery. The address led me to a short, dead-end street with about 10 identical houses. The houses were pristine, modern, clean, yet oddly lifeless. No porch lights, no signs of movement. Not a single window glowed from within. If not for their untouched appearance, I would have thought the place was abandoned. I parked in front of the second-to-last house and grabbed the bag. Walking up the stone path, I felt an inexplicable chill. Something about the silence was suffocating. Still, I knocked on the door. No answer. I knocked again, louder this time. The door creaked open by itself. I stood frozen, my heart hammering. The house was pitch dark inside. A strange stale scent drifted out. Dust, maybe, or something worse. Delivery? My voice barely made a dent in the silence. No response. I hesitated, then nudged the door open just a little more. Inside, there was nothing. No furniture, no decorations, not even a single picture on the walls. Just a long, empty hallway leading into more darkness. Every nerve in my body screamed at me to leave. I let the door swing shut and turned back toward my car. That's when I noticed it. A black sedan, parked a few houses down. It hadn't been there when I pulled in. Its headlights were off, but I recognized the shape. The same car from the intersection. My stomach knotted. This wasn't a coincidence. Heart pounding, I picked up my pace. But just as I reached for my car door, something moved in the reflection of the passenger window. My breath caught in my throat. My eyes darted to the back seat. Someone was there, a figure, hunched low, dressed in black. Before I could react, the back door swung open, and a man in a dark hoodie bolted out. He didn't come toward me. Instead, he sprinted toward the black sedan. The driver's side door opened for him like whoever was inside had been waiting. Within seconds, the car roared to life and sped off, vanishing down the empty road. I staggered backward, adrenaline surging through my veins. My hands fumbled for my phone and I called the police, barely able to get the words out. When the officers arrived, their faces told me everything before they even spoke. The entire street was unoccupied. The homes were brand new, still waiting for owners. I had delivered to a house that had never had a resident. That was chilling enough. But then the officer added something that sent ice through my veins. There had been multiple reports like mine. Delivery drivers getting lured to fake addresses, stalked by the same black sedan. I was the closest call yet. The man had been hiding in my back seat, waiting for me to get in, waiting for me to drive away. The cops searched the area but found nothing. No leads, no suspects, no trace of the black sedan. Whoever they were, they had done this before, and they were still out there. After that night, I quit the job. The money wasn't worth the nightmares, but sometimes when I'm out late, I still check my rearview mirror, half expecting to see that black car trailing me in the distance. It had been a long shift at the diner, and by the time I got home, the clock read 10 p.m. I was exhausted but eager to unwind. With my usual routine set, I grabbed a cold drink, booted up my PC, and sank into my chair, ready for a long night of gaming. My friends had early shifts the next morning, so it was just me, the glow of my screen, and the hum of my headset. A few hours passed in a blur of digital battles when a sharp knock rang out. It was just one, solid, deliberate. I slid my headset off, heart pounding slightly as I listened for a follow-up. Silence. Maybe I had imagined it. I hesitated but eventually got up and walked to the front door. Through the peephole, nothing. The porch light revealed an empty street, no movement. No sign of anyone. I shrugged it off, locking the door before returning to my desk. About 30 minutes later, another sound, this time a soft click. It was distinct, like the sound of a door closing. I yanked my headset off again, my senses now on high alert. My living room, dimly lit by my monitor's glow, felt suddenly foreign. My eyes darted to the hallway behind me. A narrow corridor with doors leading to the bedroom, the bathroom, and a small storage room. I swallowed, standing up slowly. Was I just being paranoid? Maybe it was the house settling, old wood shifting in the night. Still, something felt off. I moved cautiously, taking a quick look into each room. No windows open, no doors unlocked, no one hiding in the shadows. With a deep breath, I shook my head and forced a chuckle at my own paranoia. But then, something moved. A shadow flickering across my monitor. A reflection, a figure passing behind me. My breath caught in my throat as I turned, my pulse hammering in my ears. The movement had come from the left side of the hallway, and there was only one door in that direction, my bedroom. My body went rigid. Someone was inside. The silence in the house was unbearable, stretching the moment into eternity. Every instinct screamed at me to run. Whoever was in that room could be listening, waiting. If I hesitated, if I made the wrong move, I might not get another chance. I took a cautious step back, keeping my eyes locked on my bedroom door. The air in the house felt heavier now, suffocating. The door was ajar just an inch, barely noticeable before, but now it seemed gaping. I swore it had been fully shut earlier. Then came the creak, a slow, deliberate sound, like weight shifting on the floorboards just beyond the threshold. My stomach knotted, my fingers twitching with the impulse to bolt. My eyes darted toward the front door. If I could just make it. The bedroom door moved. It wasn't a gust of wind. It wasn't my imagination. It pushed open slightly, as if something or someone was pressing against it from the inside. That was it. My fight-or-flight response kicked in, and I ran. My feet pounded against the floor as I raced down the hall, throwing the front door open and stumbling onto the porch. The cold air stung my face, but I didn't stop. My shaking fingers fumbled for my phone as I dialed 911. Minutes later, red and blue lights flooded the street. The officers entered the house with their weapons drawn. I waited outside, unable to breathe, feeling a surreal sense of detachment, like I was watching a scene from a movie. Then they dragged him out. A man, middle-aged, heavy-set, unkempt. His bloodshot eyes stared at me, wild and unreadable. His clothes were wrinkled, his face shadowed by a scraggly beard. But what made my stomach turn, what made my knees nearly give out, was what they found on him. 2 knives. He had been in my home, watching, waiting. The officers told me he had no known connections to me, no reason for choosing my house. Just a random target. That was supposed to be reassuring, but it only made things worse. If I hadn't seen that shadow, if I had kept my headset on just a little longer, I might not have been standing here at all. That night I didn't just get lucky. I survived by seconds. I barely slept after that. Even after the police left, my mind kept replaying the scene over and over. Had he been watching me for hours? Had he planned to wait until I fell asleep? My skin crawled at the thought. I packed a bag and drove to my brother's apartment that night. I needed to be somewhere that didn't feel tainted. When I finally crashed on his couch, exhaustion took over. But the relief was short-lived. Every creak and every small noise jolted me awake. For weeks, I couldn't shake the paranoia. I triple-checked my locks, installed cameras, moved to a new place with a security system. But even now, when I sit alone at night, with my screen casting its dim glow on the walls, I still catch myself glancing at the hallway, waiting for a shadow to move again. Last winter, near the beginning of December, I agreed to house-sit for my friend, Ethan. His family was heading out of town for a week, and since I had done this before, it felt routine. The arrangement was simple. Take care of their fish tanks, water the plants, and in return, I got to stay in a spacious house instead of my tiny apartment. I arrived a few hours before they left to go over everything. Once they were gone, I unpacked my things, made myself comfortable, and by 6 p.m., I went out to grab some takeout. When I returned, I set my food on the coffee table and turned on the TV. Not even halfway through my meal, a sharp knock echoed from the front door. The suddenness of it made me pause. I wasn't expecting anyone. I peeked through the peephole and saw a man, mid-30s, average build, wearing a dark coat, no uniform, no package in hand. Just standing there. I cracked the door open slightly. "Can I help you?" He looked briefly startled to see me, then recovered. Is Ethan home?" The fact that he knew my friend's name made me hesitate, but I shook my head. "No, he's out of town. You'll have to come back another time." The man didn't ask anything else. He just nodded once and walked away. The whole thing felt odd. I texted Ethan to let him know. His response came quickly. "Ethan. I have no idea who that is." That sent a chill down my spine, but I convinced myself it was nothing. Maybe just an old acquaintance. Still, I kept an eye on the windows for the rest of the evening. Hours passed. At around 9 p.m., I set up the couch for bed, tossing down some blankets. Then another knock at the door. My stomach twisted. I crept toward the door and peeked outside. It was the same man. This time, I didn't open it. "Hey, what do you need? Can you come back another day?" I called through the door. He just stood there. He didn't move, didn't respond. After what felt like an eternity, he turned and walked away. Every instinct told me to call the police, but I hesitated. He hadn't done anything illegal, just acted strange. I locked the door, double-checked it, and decided to stay up for a while, keeping the curtains open so I could see if he returned. I watched for 2 hours before exhaustion finally won. One last check outside revealed nothing but empty streets and trees swaying in the wind. I shut the curtains, brushed my teeth, and took a quick shower. Less than 10 minutes later, as I stepped back into the living room, I noticed something that made my heart stop. The lock on the front door was turned. I didn't know. I had locked it. A shiver ran through me as I slowly approached. My fingers brushed over the handle, unlocked. A wave of adrenaline hit me. My mind raced. Someone had been inside while I was showering. I spun toward the couch where I'd left my phone. It was gone. I didn't stay another second. Grabbing my keys, I bolted out the door and jumped into my car. With shaking hands, I pressed the emergency button to call 911, then parked a few houses down, waiting for the police. When they arrived, they swept through the house and found him. The same man, sitting motionless in one of the spare bedrooms, his hands resting neatly in his lap. He didn't speak, didn't resist, just stared straight ahead like he was in a trance. They found a forged key in his pocket, an exact copy of the front door key. Ethan swore he had no idea who the guy was, but something in his voice, the way he hesitated, made me doubt him. After that night, our friendship faded. To this day, I still wonder if I hadn't noticed the lock, if I had simply gone to bed as planned, would I have ever woken up?